Hello, welcome to my latest episode of Sporting Lives, where I'm delighted to welcome along a man who's played in a World Cup final. He's been Man of Steel, Rugby League's ultimate individual honour in the British game. And of course, most recently, he's been a hero at Wembley in the Challenge Cup final. Luke Gale, welcome along to Sporting Lives. Thanks for joining me.
No, excited to join you. Thanks for the opportunity. And strange circumstances. We are now on a Zoom call, which I'm sure, or if it were in normal life, so to speak, would have been in a little office and would have been face to face. But 2020 has been a strange year, and I think this just sums it up perfectly.
Great to be talking rugby league on Sporting Lives again, and particularly with somebody who is playing now and is right at the top of his game. It's been a really interesting career, Luke, which is why I particularly wanted to talk to you, because going right back to those days when I used to see you on the pitch playing in the academy at Headingley, prior to just about the sort of start of that golden generation of trophy wins, and the way it's come full circle for you, an object lesson in determination, never say die, and all the rest of it. And that's, I guess, why the trophies are now beginning to come. But going right back to those days, I mean, that must have been really tough for you. Great in the first place that your hometown club have got you involved, you've got your foot in the door, but then to be sort of shown the door, and I don't mean that in a harsh way, that's got to be really hard to take.
Yeah, first of all, I think I signed at Leeds from being 12 years old, and I remember kind of the conversation with mum and dad like it was yesterday. Bob Pickles back then was a scout, and I was playing for Middleton Marauders, my amateur team, and we'd played a cast team, and the lead scout, you'd see him there when you're a young lad, and they'd be in the courts. And I remember coming home and my dad saying, "Oh, Leeds want to sign you on their scholarship." And honestly, I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. And I think there was a couple of other teams as well, but I just wanted to play for Leeds. And that's kind of how the journey started then. You'd go on a scholarship once or twice a week, and you'd then go every year up until signing professional contract at like 16, 17. So that was the initial journey, and then kind of broke through, played under 18s. We had a real successful team, played in a final. I think we got beat by Wigan, and then I've played in another two finals under 21s. We beat Hull 1-0, which is not many 1-0 games. I actually kicked the drop goal as well. So
what a surprise.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I think we played in another final as well. I think we got beat in that one. So that was kind of the early stage at Leeds. And I did one pre-season. And as you mentioned, it was the start of the golden generation. And I had, in my position, I had obviously Rob Burrow and Danny Maguire, who I think my task was probably near on impossible to try and budge them. And that was the start of their journey and the team's amazing journey. So the initial question for me was, I remember, look, I was gutted. I can remember I went on loan to Doncaster and loved my time there, absolutely loved it. And I think many people saw it as kind of a step backwards, but I never saw it as that. I saw it as a chance to go and learn the game and play against men. So I went to Doncaster, loved it there. We had a successful season. And then that's when kind of Harlequins, London Broncos come in, and I signed down there.
We'll come back to that in a moment. You touched on Middleton Marauders, your junior side, and I think I'm right in saying they are now no more. And if you're like many of us who've grown up and enjoyed our sport, and we've got some, loads of people who play amateur sport have got great memories of how they came through and those coaches who were involved in the places they played at. I know it would really hurt me if somewhere where I'd played sport had gone. How do you feel about your old club not being able to play anymore?
Yeah, it's massively disappointing, and I spent probably from I think I played my first game for Middleton at 6, 7 years old. So probably a decade of my life and my childhood was spent. And at best, it was a porter cabin, and it was a quite run down porter cabin at that. But I spent, like I say, probably 2 or 3 nights a week there. So that was my childhood. And now I drive past. My dad actually lives, and all my family live not too far from it, and massively disappointing. Obviously, not many people that they will not have the opportunity that I had to go play rugby and kind of get on that. And I think rugby is great for that. It gives you a goal in life, and it keeps you kind of off the streets and out of up to no good, and it kind of gives you a bit of direction, and that's what I love personally for my childhood. And it's a shame that I think many clubs are shutting down, and the amateur game is shutting down. I suppose that's why I've got a role with the Rugby League World Cup 2021 created by scheme, and that kind of gives back to this community, and that's why I love the role so much that I do there. And we went to Siddle last week and they've got a grant and they've got a new pitch and the facilities. And I was speaking to the guy there, the chairman, and like, I wish that I had this when I was a junior, because the setup they've got now is absolutely amazing. And I wish that I had that back when I was playing.
What was the big local derby when you were at Middleton? Hunslet Warriors, something like that?
Yeah, Hunslet Parkside. So. Yeah. Hunslet Parkside, and then that was the young derby, and then I don't know if you remember Queens, the team called Queens. So Queens took Stanley and Milford. They had some good. Michael McAloran was Queens player. Kyle Briggs. Who else were there? I think Ben Jones Bishop, Jody Broughton. So they kind of drafted a dream team, so to speak, and we only played them once. They were in a different league to us, and we could only play them in the cup. Anyway, we both got to the final of I think it was the Leeds Cup or the Yorkshire Cup. We played them once at Buzz Vale, and we got the bragging rights. So it was a tough game, and I remember being played at Buzz Vale, and we always used to say they merged 2 teams and they still couldn't beat us. So I have real fond memories of my amateur rugby league, and it was brilliant. We always played with some Hull teams, some pretty good Hull teams. Tommy Lee used to play. He was my age. They had some real good players over in Hull.
And Middleton Marauders against Queens. I can't imagine too many prisoners being taken in that one.
It was, I reckon. It was. I think there were a fair few scraps. To be fair, I think.
And that was just the parents.
The parents got heated on sideline as well. So. I would dare say it was a heated battle, yeah.
So great junior days. We touched on Doncaster. Harlequins you mentioned already. 2009, I think you go down there for what turns out to be about 3 seasons. Who were you working alongside then? Who was coach? Maybe Brian
Mack, yeah. Brian Mack gave me my debut, and when I look back at my time at London, there were great memories. I went down there. I learnt likes of Danny Orr. He was the number 7 when I went down. Luke Dawn, who then later on in my career I paired up with again. He was a massive influence early on. Chad Randall, players like that. And Brian Mack gave me my debut. There were real good memories. And I suppose you kind of learn that you're playing in a team that I've probably got. You're not going to be fighting for the top of the table, and there's probably no pressure, and you can go learn your trade. And I think where I am now, if I look back, them days massively helped towards where I am now as a player.
And we know what you're like now as a player, organizer, dictator. We've heard stuff about the sort of things you say to your teammates on the field, and maybe we'll come back to that as well. What are you like? Take us back to 2009, 10, 11. What's Luke Gale like at that point? Are you confident enough to be like that on the field with players who are more senior in terms of experience and age? Did you grab it by the scruff of the neck, or were you a little bit more tentative?
No, I would say I was probably the same cocky kid as I am now. And look, you're nowhere near as the player you are. You're still learning your trade. I think for the halfback in particular, it's you always kind of face that battle of to grab the team and to take the bull by the horns. But I would have still been that cocky, confident kid who thought he knew best. So it's kind of an ever-growing. You're always evolving as a halfback, and you're always learning, and that's why you see as you get older, the halfbacks get more mature and they start to play better footy.
And what did you think, having had that experience down there, about rugby league in London? Because the game has been surviving there for a long time. There's been moments of thriving and prospering, and hints at bigger things to come during the Super League era and Challenge Cup finals. What is it actually like being in there as a player in that environment when things change quite often? I'm thinking in particular, the most obvious thing is where you play at. That can change from one year to the next.
Yeah, when I was down there, we played at the Twickenham Stoop, which were fantastic, and the training facilities were fantastic as well. And I think they're always moving, or they're always trying to. I think they kind of need to keep their identity. And I know it's easier said than done, and kind of stay at one hub, and that be the home for London or Harlequins. They keep changing the name as well. But for me, there were so many good young players down there. And I know there still is now. Danny Ward's done a great job. And there is so many good young London-born players. And if we can get them coming through... look, I think the thing they always struggle with is the fans. And that was the same. It was crazy because you'd play Twickenham Stoop here, Twickenham there, there'd be 80,000 there, and we struggled to get 1,000 there. Yeah. You couldn't really fathom it, if I'm honest. But I know there's some great talent down there, and I think the game's better for a London team. The game is better.
It's sad then that they've not made it back into Super League when there's been this recent opportunity.
Yeah, look, it's a tough one, and without getting into the ins and outs of why they didn't or why Lee did. Look, I think there were 5 or 6 people who applied, and there's going to be a few that deem themselves unlucky. But I suppose I'll leave that for a different argument. Look, Lee have been here. They've done it, and I think probably on paper they probably have got the strongest team, if I'm honest. But yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? And I'm not sure now all the ins and outs and what the procedures were to kind of get there.
A few splinters there in that backside at the moment, Luke Gale.
Yeah, I'm going to say, yeah. I'll leave that for a different. I'll leave that one to you, journalists.
Okay, well, let's talk Brian Mack then, because you experienced playing under Brian Mack at an earlier stage in both your careers. He's since gone on to have massive success at the Rhinos. Before he obviously he moved on before you arrived at the club. What was it like working with Brian?
Fantastic. He's a no-nonsense character. He's tough, and I've had probably some of my toughest sessions under Brian Mack.
Can you give an example?
Yeah. We this is a good story, and I don't know if you'll remember, but I think we got beat by Hull KR, and it was a Sunday afternoon, and we put up a pretty poor performance, if I'm honest, and we got beat. And anyway, we goes in the changing room after, and Brian says, "Look," gives us a bit of a spray, and says, looks at his watch and says, "Say it's 4:30. We just finished 3 o'clock kickoff. I'll meet you down at training ground, boys, at 6 o'clock tonight. Bring your gum shields, bring your training kit." So lads look at each other to say. Anyway, we trained. We trained on a massive pitch. He used to get 12 big heavy tackle bags out, boxing gloves and everything. And every corner we'd have to stop and we'd have to tackle. And anyway, we run around this pitch for 2 hours. The pitch is like a bog. We're army crawling in mud. And if you won your first one, you could then stop. Now, if you lost every one, you have done 30 army crawls, 25 metres. With boxing, with all mud on us knuckles, so it's cutting your knuckles to smithereens. Anyway, we did 2 hours, absolutely exhausted. It's pitch black, probably 8 o'clock at night. And he just got to the middle and says, "I'll see you at same again, boys, 6 o'clock in the morning." Oh. So we absolutely gone. And this is after a game. He just played 80 minutes. Turns up at 6 o'clock. We does the exact same. I reckon we went even longer. And he actually said we're going again tonight, but he stopped after that one. And I remember we played then the following week, and every single player in the team had straps on the knuckles where they had no skin left. And I can remember on Sky saying someone had actually found out that we'd been flogged for 2 days. So that was just one example of a session that Brian once made us do. But no, I think it was fantastic. And look, he went on to Leeds and be one of the most coveted coaches in the Super League history. And I just think his mindset, I loved his mindset and the toughness of him. You won't want to cross him.
I'm going to say, I know what it's like from a journalist's point of view to sit in and do a one-to-one interview with Brian, but from a player's point of view, what's that like? Did you have to go into the office? How does he deal with you in those situations?
In the office, he'll probably kill me for saying this, but in his office, it's the best. He must have got this from Army. Now, you know how big of a bloke he is. He just takes his shoes and socks off. He's got size 16 feet, they're about that big. Puts his feet up and just plonks them on end of the table while he's talking to you. It's the most intimidating thing you've ever seen, but he does it fantastic. So that's how he addresses you, and if you've been unfortunate enough to be called into office. So I don't know if it's an old Army technique or whatever, or he's just being comfy, but yeah, you've got a size 16 foot on your face.
So you say, if you're unfortunate enough to be called into the office, so you never get called in if you've had a good game to get a pat on the back.
No,
when you're in trouble, is it? Naughty boy.
It could have been from anything really. No, do you know what? I had a real good relationship with him. I liked his character, and he's quite a funny bloke. He's got good crack, to be fair. I'm not sure if you'd see that from a journalist point of view, but. Yeah, he's quite funny, to be fair.
Yeah, he did once take issue with a question I had in a press conference, just the once. Actually, it was the Harlequins game at Headingley when, I don't know if you played in it, it might have been just before you'd gone there. But did you play in the game where Leeds won 44 points to 2 and Harlequins got an early penalty to go in front? No? It's not ringing a bell by the looks of it.
No, do you know what? I'm terrible with what year was it?
I can't remember, but it had been around about that sort of time. It might have been a year or two before you'd arrived. But anyway, I remember that specific. That was all.
And they give you a bit of a spray, did it?
Maybe I'll save that story for another year. Yeah, all those present probably won't forget it. So. 3 really good years at Harlequins. How did the move to the Bulls come about?
I just remember ringing my rugby agent Craig Harrison, showed me the money, who I've been with since probably 18 when I was at Leeds, and he's come on to be probably one of the biggest influences of my career, along with my parents. He's right up there, and he's become a best friend. Speak to him an hour every day religiously, and it got to a point where I felt like I'd learnt enough, or I wanted to move back up north. I enjoyed my time. I learnt everything I could, and I thought it was the right time for me then to come back. And Bradford was a call. I think there was a couple of teams interested. I think maybe Hull, and we decided Bradford, look, the sleeping giant of the Super League, and on paper, it looked a good fit, but it never materialised, and it was frustrating because we'd always recruit a good team, and then by pre-season or Christmas time, we'd have money problems. The same issues kept arising, and then people would be going, there'd be people coming, would not be paid, and it kind of just, if I'm honest, it kind of stalled my career, if I'm honest. As I say, we always kind of had a good team, but then there were certain things, issues outside of our bubble that we couldn't kind of help, and I feel like it stalled my career massively.
And you were there for what, 3 seasons, and ended up moving on. Yeah, when they got relegated. But talk about your actual time there on the field. I just happen to remember being sent to cover Bradford games quite a lot also when you were playing, and that was the first time that I really can remember thinking, this guy, you'd taken a step up in terms of how you were playing on the field. There was definitely that feeling of direction. Kicking game was really to the fore. I mean, did you feel like on the field, whatever was going around off it, that you were really kicking on?
Yeah, I did. I did feel that, and you're playing around better players, and we had a real good pack. And look, we had some great wins at Bradford. I was saying this. We were reminiscing with Carl Price the other day, and my good friend Elliot Whitehead, who's one of my best friends. We had a good team. John Bateman come through, Tom Burgess. The core of the team were good, and we had some great wins. And my game was getting better. It kind of, in with a couple of injuries. I remember I did my ankle one year, and it kind of just held it back a bit. And there were good times, and I felt like my game was getting better. But still, the outside influences that kept arising were still the same. There were pay issues, and you never knew if you were going to get paid from one month to the next. And then it was just a shambles, if I'm honest. We got deducted points. We had to try and stay up. It was quite frustrating. And I think all the players there, we knew that we had a decent team, and if we ever got a good run at it, I reckon we'd have been a decent team. But you know what it's like when I think then teams started coming to try and pick different players. I remember people nabbing as players, and it were a frustrating time.
Who were you working with coaching wise there, with Franny Cummins around? And
Franny was the assistant. Mick Potter come in. Franny then took over from Mick Potter. Franny and Lee St-Hilaire, and I really got on well with Franny. I thought Franny's a real smart bloke. And then Jimmy Lowe's coming at the end, but I'd already signed for Cass by then. I'd already moved to Cass, and I can remember having a conversation with Jimmy, and he said, "Look, I want you to all to be honest. Come in my office and tell me if you've sorted something for next year." So I remember having that conversation with Jimmy quite early on.
Okay. And Franny, what was he like to work with? Because he's not had, he wants to be a Super League coach. Been involved in rugby union as well. Not really been presented with a great opportunity yet because of the circumstances at the various clubs he's worked at when he's been a head coach.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even that job, I think it was a tough job because the Bradford one, I think even taking that, it's a tough one. Then I think he went to Widnes. Did he go Widnes? Same again. I think exactly. Look, I think they're the kind of tough jobs to take, aren't they? And but no, very smart coach. I got on well with him, and I think he's definitely got lots to offer. Being a Super League coach, definitely.
Does it sadden you then to see the state that, the way that things have gone at Bradford since those days that you were playing there? Yeah, it's kind of never. I do still feel like they're a sleeping giant. They've got the fan base is incredible. It's just a shame that they've not got the right man for the job. I mean, we had a couple of people, and to be honest, they were idiots, absolute idiots. So I'm not naming no names, but they just need to get the right man who's going to come in and take the club forward. That's one that's going to continue running, I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. It's one of them. It's a tough one to call because
I'm sure on paper, the people I've took over in the past looked great on paper. It's just not materialised.